Coming up, Ione Skye joins Illeana in just a minute.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
And now, it's the I Blame Dennis Hopper podcast, starring Illeana Douglas. Eavesdrop with Illeana as she interviews Hollywood's most prominent players about filmmaking, acting, and what really happens on the set of your favorite flicks and TV shows.
Hello, everyone. It's Illeana Douglas. Welcome to the I Blame Dennis Hopper podcast. I'm here with my lovely co-host, Tamara Berg. Sorry to wake you. Sorry to wake you. Back from the East Coast. The leaves, my homage to the East Coast. I'm wearing a little bit of pumpkin color.
Nice.
And a visit to The View. This is my first time on The View. It was so great. I love Whoopi Goldberg anyway. I've been such a fan of her work and her films. And it was an honor to be on the show and promote Funny Ladies all this month.
Yes, and Whoopi mentioned the podcast.
Yes.
Which was great.
That was
so
great.
Welcome anybody who's learned about us very recently.
From The View, and continue to watch me and Carol Burnett on Funny Ladies and all of on TCM all this month.
One of the things that several people have mentioned is that the Funny Ladies has not been showing up on their DVR guides.
Yes.
Which was true for me as well, and I had to do some research. So it's on Thursdays, every Thursday in October at 8 p.m.
At 8 p.m. Turner may be the last place. It doesn't, I think they do programming, I guess movie lovers we have no lives. So to tune in at 8 and 5 p.m., PS time, Pacific Standard Time is nothing for us. So, but I think eventually some of these things do end up on Filmstruck.
Nice.
So you can find them there.
Great.
But please continue to tune in to the show. It's such an honor to interview Carol Burnett and some of her insights on comedians. And it was interesting. I guess we were talking about this before. I'll mention on The View that Joy Behar was saying that comedians she thinks of comedians as stand-up comedians.
Right.
And I did not differentiate. I called them all comedians. I call myself a comedian.
Right.
But
right.
I
whatever your medium is.
Yeah.
Right.
We're funny ladies. Hey, sometimes some people don't like funny ladies. You can't please everyone.
Really? You can't?
No, I find it hard to
that.
believe. We're somewhat polarized.
Really?
I found this fun fact this
Yes?
week. I think this is really exciting. A new word has been added to Webster's dictionary, Kubrickian, after Stanley Kubrick. This means like a crazy attention to detail. So if you're dating a type A personality, you could accuse him of being Kubrickian.
Darling, you're so Kubrickian.
Yeah, you're being a little Kubrickian. Okay, so back off. And I thought this was interesting because Stanley Kubrick, also from his movie Dr. Strangelove, the phrase "the War Room," which was a fake made-up phrase for the movie in the satirical film Dr. Strangelove. Yeah, I'll meet you in the war room. Now everything is called the War Room.
Absolutely, it is.
And another one that I thought was fun is when you say you're gaslighting someone. That, of course, comes from the film Gaslight, in which Charles Boyer tries to make Ingrid Bergman think she is going crazy, but he's gaslighting her.
Kind of amazing that one originated from a film. Like,
Yeah.
I would never have thought that. I would have, and I've seen the movie.
Yes.
And it's diabolical.
It is.
What he does to her in that
Somebody's
movie.
gaslighting her. Now, do you have any that you know about?
I do. I just found one.
What?
Okay. The word droid,
Yes.
is a robot that possesses a degree of artificial intelligence. So apparently, now I'm not 100% sure of this, but apparently, according to this website, the word droid was first found in Star Wars.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Shortening it.
Yes.
And the word droid has been a registered trademark of Lucasfilm since 1977.
I love that. Well, may the force be with you on that one.
Indeed.
So I'm curious if anyone out there is listening and they have some that we're kind of forgetting. Please let us know. They'll be fun. We can post them on our Facebook page.
Catfish was one of the ones I had heard.
Yes.
That's very recent.
Right. That was from a television show.
Movie before, and
Yes.
movie before that. And then also from Ghostbusters, Toast Like She's Toast.
She's Toast?
Yeah.
You're kidding.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I love that.
Isn't that interesting?
Yes.
Amazing.
Sometimes people like, I make references, and if you're above 70, you know what I'm talking about. Like Say Goodnight, Gracie.
Sure.
Means sort of stop talking.
Yes.
That's from Gracie Allen. And my friend Wayne Fetterman, who is a comic, stand-up comic.
Yes.
I always say
And sometimes comedic actor.
And sometimes comedic actor, yes. I ran out of energy to do that joke because I'm a little jet lagged. But I always say, he said, how did it go? And I said, it went like gangbusters. And he always says, so it went like an old-timey 1940s radio show? And I say, exactly.
Yes.
So anyway, those are our little facts for today, but I love it. Kubrickian. I keep trying to use it in a sentence,
I can't wait to hear you using it.
I will. I'll try to
Here's a
fit
word
it
that
in.
has come into my lexicon recently
What?
that doesn't really pertain to this, but it's one of those great words that feels fun in your mouth, and that is chicanery.
Chicanery. That's a good one. I
Right?
like disturbing. I use that a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing. I say amazing way too much. And I say amazing and I say incredible. I go, that's incredible. I don't know why. I say that. Maybe
I like picking up the British ones too. Gobsmacked is one of my favorites.
gobsmacked. Yeah, people say that. Cheers. Don't say that on that. I don't like when people, it's a little too much with the cheers. Okay, but I digress.
Let's bring in our guest,
We
shall
should bring in Ione Skye.
Let's do it.
Ione and I, we worked with the same magnificent director, Allison Anders. We were talking outside many years ago. We did a political commercial together, directed by Allison Anders, but we don't know where the heck it is. So if anybody has it, all we remember about it was about the slice of pie. So if someone has it out there, please find it. But Ione is best known for her roles in River's Edge, which I love, Gas Food Lodging, Fever Pitch, Four Rooms. We're going to talk about Four Rooms, underrated classic. And, of course, Say Anything. She is an actress, beautiful painter. I was looking at your painters, and an author, and her new series, Camping, which comes out October 14th. Please watch it. And welcome to the show, Ione Skye.
Hi.
Nice to have you here.
Thank you.
I'm so excited. And now I know you do everything. You're sort of do you like that term? You're a Renaissance woman.
Sure. I don't mind it.
You'll take it.
I don't have a pet peeve about it, or
Because you've got a music background, but you also paint. And I was so impressed with your painting. As I said, I spent a lot of time looking at it.
Oh, good.
It has a kind of a folk vibe, but then it also has a little bit of David Hockney-esque.
Oh, that's
maybe with the
nice.
colors. Also reminded me of Mary Cassatt. Has some of her qualities. Matisse. I love. I have no skill painting, but I like to. But I like to draw with crayons and things like that. So
That's good. Yeah. I think I was very creative and I was kind of shy, and my creativity was more kind of writing stories and painting. And I loved film. I watched a lot of film, and I loved musicals and all of that, but acting was not, I wasn't born tap dancing, although I love dancing, but I was a bit shy to be on the other side. But yeah.
So it's interesting. I want to ask, of course, I always ask my first question here is, do you remember the first movie that you saw, and who took you to see it?
Well, I remember the first R-rated movie. It was
That'll do.
A Star Is Born with Barbara Streisand.
Oh, really?
Right? And
Very topical.
I know. That's right. And I remember being a little disappointed because, you think, I have these memories, like I think it wasn't Every Which Way But Loose, but I was born in 1970, but there was a movie I didn't want to see, or maybe it was the one about the caravan where all the trucks stop on the freeway. One of those movies with the
Like CB40
huge cast of,
Yeah.
something like that. And liking it. But what films? I mean, I was lucky to have the Z Channel.
Oh, that's right. The
Which
famous Z
was
Channel.
like going to
You saw art
USC film
movies.
school. Yeah. And my mother was she loved all those sort of David and Lisa and A Taste of Honey, all those black and white English,
Yeah.
because she's a bit of an Anglophile, although she's a Bronx New Yorker. But so she introduced me to things, and between the Z Channel and just growing up in the 70s and being able to watch movies, I guess. So yeah, I guess it would be something from the Z Channel or A Star is Born.
I
I don't remember before that.
I like a star. Now, does it hold up when you see it? When you see a star, I always like to see movies when you
I
get
don't
older.
think I think I probably watched the first. Wasn't there one with Judy Garland? There's been a few Judy
There's
Garland.
quite a few. There's believe it or not, the first one is called What Price Glory. Then there's
Okay.
the Janet Gaynor one.
Oh right, yeah.
Which is interesting because it has a script by Dorothy Parker, and
Oh.
they use some of her lines in the next one, which is the Judy
Oh.
Garland one.
Right.
Then there's the Barbra Streisand one.
Yeah, the Judy Garland one has who plays the man? It's
James
Right.
Mason.
So you know
That's
that
that's
one's-
personally is my favorite,
'cause
but I haven't
he's-
seen the new one yet.
right.
so.
I've heard. I mean, I heard that. I think Sean Penn was like raving about it, and then the preview makes it seem sort of different. But then I've heard it's like amazing. So anyway,
Yeah,
We'll
I
see.
can't ever
Yeah.
tell, but it's fascinating why that trope is so in terms of Hollywood,
Mm-hmm.
that one gets done again and again and again. There must be something, I don't know, inherently self-destructive or
Right.
something about and
Yeah.
attractive about wanting to do something where someone is self-destructive.
yeah.
I don't
for
know.
Sure.
I haven't seen the film.
Yeah,
but,
for sure.
but I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that was interesting in doing my research on you is that you were very close to your grandparents, and they were, because I always think of you as the perennial Laurel Canyon wood nymph
Right.
type personality, but yet your grandparents were Jewish.
Yeah, my grandparents were. My grandfather was Hungarian, but he was born in New York, and my grandmother Polish, Jewish immigrant family, but she also was born in the city. And yeah, my father is the singer Donovan, but
Yes.
I didn't grow up with him, so my grandparents were kind of more involved and protective of my mother, and so, but that was great. And because I love that generation of New Yorker Jewish
Yeah.
characters. Like once they moved to Florida and we're all in one community village place, as a child, I was like line dancing with them, playing cards with them, like shuffleboard. Like I actually wrote a little kid's book about sort of that kid. I was sort of I just felt safe with them. I loved hearing them, whatever, yenting it up. It was kind of,
So
it's
what did they think? Did they ever have any? I mean, my grandparents were Italian, so they
Yeah.
were. My dad was a hippie, so they were always dogging him for a hippie. So did they do that VOD with this Donovan going
for
around
sure.
the country?
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think my father was just confused because he's Scottish, and there's definitely not a Jewish thing going on there. So I think it was. Yeah, culturally. And finally, she married like a nice Jewish man, but she always was with a non-Jewish. But they were pretty cool, but they were more just like protective. And my grandfather was a very forward-thinking. It was the generation of kind of a little bit of communism going on, and very social. So he was a little more like open-minded. My grandmother was a little more, it was just, she was comfortable with the Jewish community, but not religious. It was just more cultural, but...
And I know you grew up in California, but I don't know if this is totally wrong because in my research it said you spent time also in Connecticut.
Yes, yeah. I was born in London, but my parents had split. And so she came back. She went to Los Angeles with her sister, who was sort of an actress. She was in Shadows, Cassavetes' first film, and she, my aunt, but she was too insecure, I think, to be an actress. She was on Bonanza, like in the early 60s, but she took my mother to LA in the 60s, and my mother never left, except for this one little period where she married this man, and he said, let's move to Connecticut, and you could be near your parents, and they were still in Queens, and so it was this brief period in Ridgefield, Connecticut. And when I saw the ice storm, I was like, I think that's sort of, it reminded me of that, being in the woods in a modern...
That movie for me was like my entire childhood.
Oh, it was. Okay. Were you in New York, or you were also...
It's somewhat similar. My grandparents were Italian Catholics, very working class. My father was a hippie, moved us to Connecticut, and basically my mom had to go out to work to support
Yeah.
the hippie lifestyle. So she fluctuated. But we were living in Connecticut, which is not a good place to have a commune. It was really frowned upon.
Right. Yeah.
So
Not Vermont. It's more...
But there was that element of the ice storm because
Right.
we were near a college town, and there was a lot of that kind of stuff that I sort of saw going on. I had friends and.
Did you think it was weird or like?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, the irony is that everybody's parents thought my family was a bad influence because
Right.
we were
Yeah.
hippies, and
Yeah.
my dad didn't have doors on his cars, and he'd
Right.
drive around. And we had goats and
Yeah.
musicians and stuff. But when I went to wealthy kids' houses. Oh my God! That's like when I was like, "What are they into?" Like
Yeah.
it was all
I felt
sorts
the same thing. Like other people's houses were strange and square. I mean, even though I didn't like going to Venice when I was a kid, when we
Yeah.
were here, I thought that I didn't like other people's weird.
Yeah.
But I also was like, this family's square in my mind. But my own weirdness in my family was fine, but yours wasn't.
The other thing that was amazing, you grew up around all these musicians, like George Harrison.
Oh
and
yeah, that was
Grace Slick.
unfortunately that was before. Well, I was up with George Harrison. My mom was pregnant probably. So yeah, like George was with Patty Boyd, who turns out it's like my best friend's aunt. Her mother's Jenny. So it was a strange. We weren't introduced. We found each other.
Yeah.
Jenny and Mick Fleetwood's daughter. But yeah, she was basically like almost homeless, but staying in Grace Slick's house in San Francisco, and then with George Harrison, and Patty had like a fur coat, and my mom borrowed it, and I think she was pregnant with me and was like morning sickness on it, and Patty was so sweet. My mom always remembers she was so nice and she didn't care, and she was, but so it was homeless in the best I guess houses you could be homeless in, but not what I'm saying.
Yeah, things were a little more easygoing then. Like
Yeah.
people just came over and stayed, and they were living with you.
Yeah.
Weirdly, again, there was much more. It seems much more safety among the hippies of the '60s and '70s. It was like
Yeah.
later on, I think, when hard drugs kind of came in, that everything maybe changed a bit. But
Yeah.
but early on, it really was like everybody
Yeah.
wanted to be a singer-songwriter and
Yeah.
Peace and love.
Yeah.
peace and love, that free love. And did you see movies at all, like in this period, or was it more music that you were around?
Well, I mean, by the time I came around, it was my mother had I just started going to school, and, there were always interesting people in and out, but it wasn't, I guess I wasn't seeing a lot of shows or anything. And my mother at that point she's in her core is like a mother housewife type, even though she's very, hippie mentality in that she loves an underdog and she's very loving, but she was more just like, we were just sort of having a family life with a lot of people coming in and out, but not that many.
Did you watch things on television, or I mean,
for sure. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, what was I?
or try to emulate?
Me try to emulate. I mean, I guess when I was a kid, I loved Shirley MacLaine when I was really little. Maybe all of those bright, those Technicolor, I mean, she's not an Auntie Mame, but I don't know, those fun,
Big fun
early
movies.
60s, were they probably like the ones?
Gypsy.
Well, Gypsy and
I still love Gypsy.
yeah, totally. Love Gypsy, yeah.
On TV, because I am doing this show with Carol Burnett, like I was upset, like that was my show,
Oh,
Carol
yeah.
Burnett. But I also love the Sonny and Cher show. Like
Oh,
that was
man.
my idea of
Yeah.
heaven.
Oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, and it's funny. I went through there was another podcast where you go through a TV guide from what.
Yes.
And I just, it's funny sometimes you watch shows like, for me it was like Donnie and Marie, but like some shows you didn't even like, but for some
But you
reason you would
watched them.
watch them. Flipper, I loved.
Flipper was a good
Oh
one.
my God.
Flipper could be sad though.
Twilight Zone,
Yeah.
loved, and I only couldn't watch it when later I was like not having a nervous breakdown, but I was sort of freaked out by things, and I
Yeah.
like could not watch Twilight Zone for some reason. That was something that triggered me. But yeah, I loved Twilight Zone.
And I was reading that you got your first job in a movie in River's Edge basically through your brother, because
Yeah.
he had auditioned for it.
Yeah, I think I have to ask him, because this is the story, I think. So Carrie Fraser, I think that's her, the casting. So my brother and I were in the LA Weekly just because a friend had taken pictures, and it was like a Christmas time, what to get certain people, and I was in it. And I think he might have gone into the audition showing the casting, knowing my
Right.
brother, who's the opposite of me, who's like quite forward like that, saying, look, I'm in this magazine, paper, and maybe she saw me as well. And so Tim Hunter, his style was sort of Matt Dillon, he put in one of his first movies, Jennifer Tilly, brown-haired, this certain look. And I guess I sort of had that look. And maybe Carrie was like, oh, your sister kind of has this look. And so my brother came home, and I was not happy in school because I was in Hollywood High, and I was just not, it was too overpopulated of a school for me, I guess, whatever. And so he said, you should audition for this. So anyway, I thought, no, I was too worried, but I really wanted out of like my school situation. I wasn't ambitious academically, and I saw it as a kind of way to sort of get out, basically, which was great because it made me go get a push against my fear and just go for something, because I was very nervous, of course.
Were you surprised in terms of watching the movie in today's context? It's so dark. At the time, I remember seeing it. It's what a great movie. Really cool.
Oh, yeah. I know. And
but it sort of draws a little bit of a parallel, I think, to Blue Velvet. Very much.
Well, that's one of the reasons why, because
But is River's Edge before Blue Velvet?
It's right after, because I'll
right
tell
after.
you one of the other reasons I was excited about River's Edge was because I'm forgetting his name. The same DP who did Blue Velvet did River's Edge.
Oh, he did.
And I was such a
Interesting.
huge Blue Velvet. I'd just seen it. I loved it. I was 15, but I was like, that was my thing, that kind of film. So also I'd seen my brother's dumb auditions, and when he showed me this, I thought, well, the writing's not exactly what kids say, but it's, I liked dark at the time. And then, anyway, so that Blue Velvet was a reason also why I was like going for it, because there was a tie-in. I also did a movie with Maureen O'Sullivan because at the time I was like, oh, Mia Farrow's, I was like one step closer to Woody Allen. Right. Which, it was a silly movie, but and also I was, she was in Gone with the Wind and Jane, and I was excited to be with a older Hollywood person. But sometimes you do things to get closer to something else.
Oh, definitely. Now, when you were the cast is pretty crazy. Crispin Glover, at his most Crispin Glover,
right?
Dennis Hopper, Keanu Reeves, of course. Were you at all intimidated?
Well, we were really excited for Dennis Hopper, and we thought, oh, he's going to come in and it was at a point where he was like in suits with a briefcase. I don't know if he was in AA or something, but he was definitely, and he was so nice. And I feel like my mother must have, I don't know if she slept, I shouldn't say that if she slept with him, I don't think so. But I think she sort of knew him. And I know it was funny because she came with me, we filmed A Little in Sacramento, and she and Dennis were hanging out, and she was kind of flirting. And I was like, oh my God.
From seeing recent documentaries about him and the last movie and all that, it's highly likely he's seen it get around.
So we were excited about that. And Crispin Glover was in Back to the Future, so that was like a big commercial thing. So that had a kind of, ironically, because he's so edgy, it was like he was had been in this commercial movie. And Keanu, I think, had maybe done one movie, so he was a newcomer. So, I forgot her name, but there was an actress, now I'm forgetting, but she had done something about Amelia, like a TV, something about this, she won an Emmy, and that, so all these things, there were different forms of me kind of thinking, this is great, but the whole vibe was like, this is
very
kind
indie.
of cool. And so it kind of made everyone cool.
What is interesting about the film and looking back on it is that it doesn't have that overproduced feeling, and like the clothes sort of seem like your clothes. Like Crispin Glover, again, is wearing this completely Dickensian outfit, which looks like he picked it out.
Oh, he did. You're so right. Because everyone else did what the costume designer said, and he came in this sort of leather black, and she was like, okay. But we all we're like, it was very grunge,
though.
And we all went with whatever she wanted, but he had a whole thing.
And do you remember any of the direction that Tim Hunter, where is Tim Hunter these days? Do you stay in touch?
No, but I know that he started TV directing right after that a bit. And gosh, I feel like I looked up what he was doing, and he was doing things. But he was very quiet and shy, and he gave me, I was looking at your book, and he gave me Flaubert and Balzac to read. I remember, like, kind of, because you were saying Mike Nichols. So he did that a little bit, very sweet and just subtle, and I don't know, he was great.
Isn't that an interesting thing when somebody gives you books and you like, I don't know what this means, but I guess I'm going to read them. And I'm always fascinated, again, by what people, especially when you're younger, people see something in you and you can't see it in yourself.
Yeah.
And it's one of the nicest things I think you can do for someone is to kind of encourage them to see a spark in them and give them certain books. And
yeah, and if it's the right person, if it's someone who's just doing it because they're controlling and trying to, like, that's different. But when it's, when it's like the right person who you, well.
Did you ever have a guy give you Henry Miller? I know when I was younger, it's like, you need to read Tropic of Cancer.
No, I feel like I was always like the pervert giving people books. That's my tactic. Do it first.
So then that movie, did your life change sort of overnight after the film came out?
Yeah, I sort of thought it might be just this one-off, and then I remembered a screening. A couple agents came. I didn't have an agent, and they came up, and then I was like, oh, okay. And then I remember having one of these. It still upsets me in a way. A meeting with maybe a business manager or an agent saying your life's about to change. Get ready for the money. And I was like, oh, it's gonna be amazing. And then it changed a little bit, not too much. But I remember just like thinking, oh yeah. But it changed. Well, I sort of left. I was in the era where you got emancipated. They did that in the 80s where they saw that if they made you legally an adult, you could work adult hours, which didn't always work because you're inevitably doing a movie with another young person who's not emancipated, and they have a tutor and they have to stop, and you're in a scene with them and you're just feeling like, oh no, I'm not getting tutored. And I don't know, it makes you, anyway.
Yeah.
Gave me a little insecurity because I didn't graduate. And
so have you gotten your high school diploma?
No, but Amy Fleetwood just got hers, and she was encouraging me. I started down the line not that long ago, and then I sort of let it go. But I might, just to do it before I die.
Not? Just so you can, might be an interesting experience.
For sure. And I did a little more algebra.
Or you could go back to Hollywood High, and then that would be a reality show. That would be a genuine TV show that I would watch. And you would only reference films of yours, and nobody would know what they were. Yeah. And then you'd become really popular. Like you'd watch actually, don't you think you'd be super popular, like with Say Anything? It's such an anthem.
Yeah.
Film.
Probably with all the memes and, now things are, it's all, whatever, GIFs and memes, and I don't know if things catch on in that way, I guess.
And that little, like we were saying at the top, Kubrickian.
Yeah, Kubrickian.
So how did you get cast in Say Anything?
That was just like a straight audition, and I really had to convince Cameron Crowe. Moon Zappa, who I was friends with at the time, knew Cameron, and I think she kind of helped very much. Invited him over and said, she told me a friend of mine is doing a movie, and he loves music, and he'll be impressed that your dad's Donovan, and so I think that introduction actually helped. 100%. And then, when I heard James Brooks was involved, then I really tried. But there was this one point where I almost sabotaged, where I came in for like my second or third audition, and Cameron just was like, you've got to give more. Like my fallback was often sort of pulling the punch or something, not pulling the punch, but throwing the race in fear of rejection, sort of my, I messed up, so it's in my, something I would do occasionally back then. And he saw it, and he was like, don't do that. Don't, just go for it. You got to play. You got to do it. And so I really did it.
But that's hard, though. I mean, you didn't really have any training.
You feel safe. Also, I've noticed, like, if I feel safe, because I feel like if you give as an actor, if I feel it's like a worthy project, or I'm sort of it's not safe. It's more for me safe is if it's of a certain level. Like if I think this is a good quality thing, I'll
Right.
throw my good quality in. But if I
yeah.
don't, you know what I mean? If I don't, I'm
it's
sort
tough.
of like, oh, I don't feel safe or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Did you have to do any kind of chemistry reads with John Cusack?
He was just, Cameron Crowe was like, I want John Cusack. He didn't have any other ideas, I think. Or he did, but he didn't want anything else. And so we had to really woo him because he had just done Better Off Dead and all these sort of rom-com whatever. And he was like, I want to do serious. I just want to do meaningful serious. I don't want any romance comedy. So we had to like keep just talking to him and convincing him. And then he got to write some of his stuff. And, it was like, whatever you need. And I was really intimidated by he and Joan Cusack, actually. That's what was my that was hard.
Well, they came from kind of an acting
And they were confident.
dynasty,
Yeah, and they...
theater background and
yeah,
Chicago.
yeah, exactly. And they were just... Yeah, they seemed really confident, but they were, super duper nice. It wasn't what they were, personally, they were amazing, but it was really, that was like, I had to get over that.
How did you feel, did you understand at the time the impact of the movie?
No, it was, I knew like Laszlo Kovacs, I knew he was amazing and I was excited, and Polly Platt, I was excited she produced it. And so I knew I was in this amazing company.
Yeah.
But, I didn't really, I was on a publicity tour in New York with my mom, and it was like a rainy day. I was like 16, 17 in a terrible mood, and she had come and we were probably fighting, and I was in like a limo and just like sweaty, dehydrated, like, like had talked a lot, just felt yucky for some reason. And then she nudges me and there's like a line around the block for Say Anything in New York. And I was like, ooh, maybe. And then it was like later, it's sort of, still people love that movie. So
It's interesting. It's like each generation has. Did you ever see the movie Say Goodbye Columbus?
I know who's in it. I have never seen it, but I know it's. I know I can see. But Benjamin.
Yeah, Richard Benjamin and Ali. I can't even think of her name.
Ali, the beautiful McGraw. Right.
McGraw.
Yeah, I could see their faces, but I haven't seen it.
And so it's always this interesting kind of, again, like trope of romantic comedy of a somewhat unattainable girl and the guy, the kind of the quirky guy. So I'm in terms of watching it, and you are the device. Like that's what I think is so fascinating.
Yeah.
And so after you see it, you're being utilized. I mean, in you're at the, what a Cameron Crowe, I think, saw in you, and what we all see in you in that film is a certain innocence, but yet a depth that's underneath it, where you are not even aware of the effect you are having.
Yeah.
And so I think that must be so interesting as you grow older.
I know.
To go, who is this?
I know. And then
girl, and
bringing it to camping, this character was so interesting because it reminded me of like, I had to watch movies with, like I watched Jean Arthur and like Jennifer Coolidge and like Julie Haggerty, like this kind of, because I always think of myself personally as I've seen it all. I grew up with like sort of hippie,
Right.
It wasn't it was a wholesome, wonderful, thank God nothing terrible happened to me, but I had a lot of exposure. I think of myself as edgy. I like edgy. And then I play like a valedictorian in Say Anything who's sort of like innocent. And I do have that quality, but I said to my husband, I don't think I'm anything like this role. I have to watch all these Carol Lombard, these amazing people who, they're not ditzy. They're
Right.
just, they're like, they're literal in a way. They're just like, they just take everything and they're kind of innocent, but they're not dumb. And I was like, I don't think, and he was like, you're way more like that than you think. I was like, oh, but it wasn't an insult. He was like, just, you're like, it's like this innocence and this sort of, but with the depth underneath, but it's sort of what you present is kind of, it was like Julie Haggerty, I guess, was the closest that I hope I think I was most like her possibly. I don't know, but who knows? I just know that it was sort of, I thought of it as a big character, big leap. And he was like, it's not such a big leap. But I studied, I think for the first time, like other actresses. I've never approached a role like that.
do you have any favorite scenes? I actually love some of your scenes with John Mahoney. What a terrific actor he was.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so solid,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
and so
I loved working with him. I loved it because he just was so, I don't know, he was just like so giving, but he didn't, behind the scenes, he didn't, I don't know, we just had fun and like hung out. Whereas that was kind of not a heavy job, but like I feel like John Cusack was trying to kind of help me and Cameron, and it felt like they were getting involved. And John Mahoney was just like, you know, he was like warm and wonderful, but he wasn't getting involved with me.
do you ever think consciously when you're doing a scene? I mean, I had challenges with my father, so anytime I was ever doing a scene like Mother,
Oh, man.
that was always a little tough, you know, because you have to remember what's the movie and what's your real
Yeah, I
life.
mean, I think my challenge is I absolutely didn't grow up with my father at all. And so, I mean, therefore, directors, powerful men, older men, like I haven't dated older men, but just, you know, I met like Robert Altman a couple of times and I could barely deal. Like I will project. I didn't do it with Dennis Hopper, but mostly I'll do it with somebody in that range where I project like I want you to be my father. There's a need that is so massive.
See, when I met, that's what my whole book is about.
Yeah.
I made Dennis because my father emulated Dennis
Yeah.
Hopper.
So I guess maybe
now
if
I'm meeting Dennis Hopper.
Right. It's
And he
intense.
played my lover in the movie, so it was definitely.
I did it with David Tennant's in Camping, and he's Scottish, and my dad's Scottish, and I just get geeked out. I mean, thank God I'm not like, you know, I'm not like whatever at this point, not trying to sleep with people. But anyway, I just was like Scottish. My middle name's Skye, and you know, I was conceived on the Isle of Skye, and he's like, great. Okay. But yeah, I think then with the father, I drew more on my thing with my mother probably because I didn't really have, I had stepfathers, but I didn't have like anything to draw on exactly for, you know, and say anything. But I thought of an overbearing mother or something. Not that my mom was but just, you know, all this sort of dynamics. And
The other thing I read about the film is you didn't have of course, the famous song. You didn't have the Peter Gabriel song.
Yeah.
He actually wanted an Elvis Costello song. Do you remember what Elvis Costello song it was?
Because it's so weird. At the time, I became an Elvis Costello fan after.
Yeah.
And he and Cameron Crowe and John Cusack kept talking about Elvis, and I thought they were talking about Elvis Presley. Don't get me wrong, I love Elvis Presley, but I was like, this is so weird. They're big. It didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
And then later, but anyway, but it's nice that it was Peter Gabriel because I think it's more straightforward love. It doesn't have.
It's
more
so
just,
iconic.
It's more Cameron Crowe because like
Yeah.
Elvis Costello's so romantic, but he's definitely, you know, a little more bitter and, you know.
Did you have a song when you did the scene? Were you one of those?
Yeah.
I was totally an actor who used a Walkman. That was always my.
Oh yeah, I have for
I
sure.
was a Walkman actor.
Yeah, I have for sure. I should do that more. He used Nancy. His wife had a song that was going to maybe be in it or a temporary, and he was playing her song, which was nice. Yeah, but yeah.
So, but when you saw the final.
I
film,
didn't know that would be a thing. Like, you know, that song would become and the boombox like that for sure. The whole combination just.
Did you do mixtapes? And again, this was the era that was just celebrated.
Yeah. Well, I was married a little bit after that to Adam Horovitz and the Beastie Boys, and talk about the mixtapes. I have one still that I turned into a CD, and then because his mixtapes were just like phenomenal.
That's great. Allison Andrews and I also did. We did.
Oh yeah,
We did mixtapes back and forth. Okay, we got to get to Allison Andrews because she's the best. Now, the Gas Food Lodging, which I saw, and I write about it in my book. I saw it at the Sundance Film Festival, and it just blew me away. I was like, this woman is so talented, and the representation of the women in the film was so different than anything I had seen in a movie. First of all, there was like no judging. the mom wasn't like the greatest mom in the world. There was no like bonding.
Yeah,
That's what I
yeah.
loved about the movie.
Yeah.
It was very unapologetic, but it was also very artsy.
Yeah, it felt very easy to like. I didn't struggle like, am I doing this right? Because it felt so much like a real family where you inevitably have these bonding moments, but it's not like the bonding moment. It just felt like, oh, I get this. I get this. We're all live together and we're a family. But yeah, that whole thing. So it felt very, almost the easiest role I've ever done. I don't know if that's the right word, but the most kind of, I just like slid into it and it felt really, seamless or whatever. And she's so, wow, yeah, Allison is so, like, I start hanging out with her and I just want to hang out with you. I don't want to stop hanging. She's so, I don't know, these sound so new agey, but like powerful and like a witch, but not really, but in the best way. Like she's so,
She good Earth Mother.
yeah. And she's, she's just so, and she's sort of fascinating. Yeah.
Also that she was very reflective of a type of filmmaking, indie filmmaking, but that was very specifically Los Angeles because there's music in it. It's very music based, more so that I thought than some of the New York filmmakers.
Right.
You know, there's always a lot of music and
Yeah.
people wanting to be in bands and sharing
Yeah.
songs and
Yeah.
things like that. Did you have a scene when you shot the movie? Do you remember how long it took to shoot? Is it like a relatively short?
You mean in Gaspar and Logic, like how
Yeah.
long a scene would take? I don't really remember. Like, I feel like, I mean, I think of it as the sets. Like, we would have that set and it would take a couple days to shoot out those scenes. Yeah, it's funny. Back then, I didn't have any sort of producer. Like, now I really am looking at things more like, oh, that's a night.
You just showed up.
I don't know if I want to do the night, but no, I'm kidding. But I was sort of just so in it. I don't really remember. I think a couple days for each set. That was so fun. Also, when you're on location in the town, Deming, New Mexico, like we were doing things with the mayor and then some locals, and we were super like kind of involved in this town, and I don't know, it was just such a great experience.
And there's a very famous scene, it's just like beautiful, where you have the incandescence from the in the cave.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. How did they do that?
Is
that a phenomenon? Is that a real
yeah,
phenomenon?
For sure. Yeah, I can't even remember if they did that on post. Oh no, I think it's a real thing, and they did it. And her daughter is so funny in the movie, and Jay Mascis have a funny thing together. But yeah, I think that was. I don't think that was like done after in post. I think it was they had the real flashlight and that whole thing.
Yeah, it's a beautiful scene. So when that movie came out too, what was your response to?
I feel so lucky that I did it because I think at the time I was like in a sort of not a great, like I had a sort of boyfriend that was distracting me and destructive, and I wasn't really going for my career. And again, I think my brother, I don't know if he knew Allison, but he said there's this audition, or I talked to him about it, and I was going to sort of blow it off or not pay attention to it. And he said, this is really great. And thank God, because it was such a big indie movie, and it gave me a lot of opportunities to be in the indie world. And it was a very important choice, like to go, to really show up for that meeting. I think I auditioned, and Allison was so great because she just was like, really wanted me. And I don't know, it was just nice.
She just had an instinct.
Yes.
And then you worked together again on a movie called 4 Rooms.
Oh, yeah.
Which nobody really...
No one knows about. Yeah, that was so fun.
She's
it was
a
just
really
so fun.
Interesting idea.
Yeah. There was that other one in New York with, I think, Woody Allen and Scorsese.
Yeah, Martin Scorsese and Coppola.
Coppola, right. I wonder, do those ever work? I don't know. I can't remember.
I don't think they ever do. They have there
it's a
used
fun
to be
idea.
Italian versions in the 60s.
Right.
But this one has, it's Allison Anders.
Rockwell.
Alexander Rockwell, I believe. Quentin Tarantino.
And
Robert Rodriguez.
I think that's it.
And the cast is insane.
So fun.
It's Madonna.
Yeah.
Tim Roth.
Yeah,
Tim
and-
Roth really is he plays a bell
Yeah, he's
boy
the
in
lead throughout. And then I loved Sammy Davis, this English actress who was in, I think that's her name. She was in one of those great World War II English movies from the 80s, it would have been. Such a great movie. Anyway, I loved her, and no one knew who she was. Oh, and Valeria Galina, and
Yes.
and then, of course, there was all these other fun people. Antonio Banderas was in another. But yeah, it was just fun working with Madonna.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
The,
And Tim Roth is and he probably really helped me with any comedic thing that was coming out of me, because he was just doing physical comedy.
Yeah,
It
just
was
doing
good to be in a scenes with that, because it just like gets you loose and-
percolating.
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah.
And it was all on a stage. I remember visiting.
Yeah, because it's funny when I relive some of it, I think we were at the Chateau Marmont, but we weren't. It was sort of supposed to be, it looked like a deco or that kind of 30s.
I remember the set. I remember going to
it
the
was
set.
definitely a
and-
set, for sure. Well, mine, for sure, because it was this cauldron, we were witches, and then, but
very normal, very typical.
But all the elevator and the lobby, in my memory, were like at the Chateau Marmont, but I don't think we were.
So did you try? Because I did a movie with Madonna, and all I did was, of course, try. She was even more. She was at the height of her Madonna-ness when I did the movie. It was called The Next Best Thing.
Okay.
But and all I tried to do was, I'd find any excuse to talk to her. Or whatever. It was a complete pain in the ass. But she was really nice. She was
So
actually
nice.
She was very nice.
Yeah. No,
I thought she was very personable.
Totally. It was funny in the makeup trailer, she actually ended up moving to a separate room to get her makeup, because we were all getting our makeup done, like, just like you couldn't not like want to watch her getting her makeup put on. And the makeup artist was an old friend of mine, and I was like, "Can you do my makeup too?" And he's like, "No. I'm like, I'm her makeup artist." I'm like, "Oh, right." Anyway, but she was sweet. And I remember one night it was late, and we were like lounging, and I felt this like maternal, like, because her mother passed away when she was young, and I was like, I just wanted to mother her. I had this like, I want to take care of you feeling. But yeah, she was nice.
She also had amazing lighting. That's what I remember. It was like work. I always say it was like working on the sun.
Oh,
it was
yeah.
like we had the best.
Oh man, I never
lighting.
can. I try. I don't know. I can never. I'll talk to the DP, like, hook me up in this scene.
Oh my God, I never know either.
And then
Certain people, they
they're
seem
like,
to
I
just.
will, and then I feel like, maybe I need to know lingo or something, because anyway.
Or be Madonna.
Or be Madonna.
Give her a mixtape.
Yeah.
So then after what happened after 4 Rooms? So now you're like were you living here in LA? Did you?
Yeah, then I just did a lot of, the beginning of my career was fun, because I did fun things like this mini series with Jacqueline Bisset, like, Napoleon and Josephine in France, like huge ABC money, and like, where you get a
those are the
driver
days.
and the
The
per diem,
90s.
and it was just, and even in the 80s, like meetings, like whatever do you want to make? And I was so young and had, probably ideas, but I never, it's just, wouldn't, I wouldn't know what to say. But, so I did a lot of like TV and indies, and some things were cool and some things, a lot not so great. And I never stopped working. And then, like I was married, and I was married to someone in the Beastie Boys, so I went on tour a lot because it was super fun. And,
Right.
And that, but I was doing movies. I did this fun movie called The Rachel Papers, which is who wrote the book? I can't remember the time right now. But Dexter Fletcher. It was, oh man, he's such an amazing English writer. Anyway, and that was in London in the 90s. So for English people, that's actually a fun movie, because it's like a time capsule of London in the 90s, and that was great. And I was having kids, but I never like gave up my career, but I just have definitely had less, action.
Mm-hmm. Well, I also think the movie business changed dramatically in the 2000s, like those indie films and those experiences just sort of shifted. Sundance shifted, everything kind of shifted. But then you went into doing other things, and I was mentioning you painting.
Yeah, I've been painting sort of the whole time, pretty much, and had a couple. I had one of my favorite shows with Sofia Coppola, and a couple of other people in Tokyo, which was so fun because she had a clothing line at Parka. There's a mall that has a gallery in the top floor. Very cool setup. But yeah, and I lived in New York for a while, and I did a couple. I was like a huge fan of Naked Angels, so I would just like hang around all those people. I did a little thing there, and I don't know, go back to
God,
acting.
Naked Angels.
That was great,
I
right?
did the Naked Angels.
You did?
Fisher Stevens, and those are the days.
Yeah.
Those are the fun days. But you mentioned something which I thought was very interesting, that the painting, that acting is so dependent on auditioning, but painting is something you do by yourself. But,
Yeah.
I mean, I would find painting very
Yeah, no,
intimidating, though.
Oh yeah, I mean, I feel not.
I'm a painter.
Yeah,
you know,
I mean, I'm not as like heady about it, but also like when I was living in New York, and I lived in Chelsea before the galleries kind of came, and then when they did, I think I had one person come, a friend of a friend, and she said, "Well, you'll have to do a series, and then maybe you can have a show." So I didn't take it as seriously. I think I have such a good relationship to it because I've had a handful of shows in my life, and I sort of sell them painting by painting. Like someone will say, I want to buy this one, and I'll sell it. So what I'm saying is I haven't put myself out there enough to have a bad experience, because I'm sure if you were really in the art world, it's like any other business and head trippy, and you probably, then there's all the,
Do you paint from memory, or do you paint?
I paint
something?
Mostly from, I'll see something like, and I'll get a certain feeling like I want to do that. I like directing shorts and things. I wish I had such a clean relationship to that, because I get too like a bird with a shiny object. Like, that would make a great movie. Oh, that would, I get so inspired, all the time, but then I don't stick with it. Whereas with the painting, it's like, oh, I see a beautiful, landscape or a photo of an English house, and I think, oh, I'll paint that house, and then I just do it, and it stays, and I like it, and the whole time I don't turn on it. Whereas writing or pitching something or thinking about it, it's like the ups and downs for some reason get me.
Yeah, I feel that way about writing. Is that it's hard to sell a script or something, but you can always sit and write a story and something like that. At least it's done. And it's yours, and you can give it to people, and they can read it and give you instant, feedback.
Yeah.
So we don't have too much time left, and I want to talk about this new series, Camping. What's it about?
Well, it's taken from a British show. It's a woman and her husband going on his 45th birthday camping trip with her sister and their couple's friends. And so it's sort of, as they're on this trip, it's a lot of the relationships and stuff all play out in this setting of a camping trip, like glamping trip. So it's very, has a real Lena Dunham flavor in the writing. And it's a lot of her. It's sort of like Jen Garner. It's like, Lena Dunham has sort of health issues, so that's a lot of that is in this. So it's sort of autobiographical, and also it's kind of more comedic, I think, than Girls. And the English show, it's great. It's like all sort of, it's like kind of unlikable or tragic characters, but in a kind of amazing way. And my character is kind of probably the most maybe likable, because I'm kind of an innocent. And so then it all goes crazy, of course, in the 7th episode. And then, it's sort of this build. But it's funny, these comedies now, like, I don't know if you saw Baskets or certain ones where they're like, bad things just keep happening so much, and you're like, if I see Louis Anderson, I can't see this poor character, and then it's as if they know like something good has to happen, because I can't take, or even Succession, like, these are such horrible people, and then so just when you're like, these people are horrible, it just it gets deeper, and you see it's complex.
There's a leaning towards things that are so dark that I don't know, it makes me yearn towards looking.
I know.
I'm a little nostalgic. I feel like this is more, it doesn't go that deep. It's like, it's sort of like,
maybe in the realm of like The Last Man on Earth, or like it's sort of got a kind of like nothing really bad's gonna happen. So it's sort of more just it's got that like lighter comedy thing.
My last question, because I'm going to be obsessed with this now for the next 20 years. Because they just did this thing on the news. We only have 20. Climate change is so bad, and that we're all screwed. Like we only have 20 years. So to me, it's this real life thing now.
Yeah.
If you only had 20 years to live. God. How are you going to spend it? And so now you're going to be the first person who I ask, because now I'm obsessed with it. I'm like, how am I going to spend the next 20 years?
I don't know.
So how are you going to spend the next 20 years?
I mean, I guess I would try. I mean, I should try to do something to help.
Not use straws. I'm doing it.
I know.
I don't eat meat. I don't know what else I can do.
Yeah, that's good. I don't know. My little brother's doing a sort of farming thing in Vermont. Like
that sounds great.
And I feel like if these kind of farmers were the new celebrities, they should be.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know.
That's what the first thing for me is like, well, you got to travel.
Yeah.
You got to see everything.
Yeah, for sure. I know. Even just without the climate change, I mean, I'm 48, but I'm starting to think, wow, like is this the last time I'll be in this city? Like, or not in America, but like say I go somewhere far away. Like when you're younger, you just think, oh, I'll be going to France like my whole life. But then like, oh, I guess I'm going to be living in Laurel Canyon my whole life. And maybe I'll go to France a few more times. But it's sort of like it starts to hitting you that you're not going to be doing everything you thought.
Yeah,
I have
started
playing tennis, which is cool.
Oh, see, that's a good. We got 20 years.
I think I guess I'll bop around for 20 years. Ugh, I don't know. It's too. It's wild. I think of like.
It's pretty dire.
War-torn countries. Like, how do people? We have this wild ability to really have these like tragic things happen, and everyone's pulling together, and it's happening, and then it kind of we're able to like let's just go and have a party, and let's like we want to forget it, or I don't know if it's good or bad. I think it's a little of both, but not good if you're not preventing things.
I thought that weird example of Banksy completely self-destructing his own painting and people not reacting to it except to take out their phones and video. It's like, how do I feel about this? I don't know. It seemed there wasn't even outrage. It was just kind of an odd. Yeah. I just thought that was like again another odd moment, like where people seem to be numbed. But I when I go to nature,
I know. I really nature's so good. But yeah, like I have a teenager who goes through things, and there's such an instinct, like no. That's something's bad's happening. Like I'm like, she's a teenager. Like it's not even that bad. But like there's a sort of instinct like keep it together and but so anyway, I just feel like it's normal to process. It's like we have to give ourselves time to process.
Well, you have 20 years now.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And that's it.
And that's it. So start thinking of
oh my gosh, I don't know. It's too heavy. I have a 9-year-old, so that's like all I can think about.
At least organize your mixtapes.
That's right. Put them on the computer.
I've scanned most of my photos. That's something I'm doing.
Yeah.
I don't know who's going to take them, but
yeah, I know. I've done that too. It feels good.
But I am doing them.
Yeah.
I know whenever I put one out, people are like, "Oh my God, that's incredible!" And I'm like, I have about 300,000 more. Like
that's impressive.
Polaroids, and I have so many. I've kept everything in journals and little pieces of paper, and I put them up on Twitter. Like I stole that was one of the ones. Speaking of Madonna, I stole her name tag from Goodfellas from when she sat. Like I just thought that was really cool. I love ephemera. Just says Madonna, Warner Brothers. I just to me it doesn't get better than that. I don't know. But I'm silly that way.
Me too.
Anyway, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah,
Please
thanks
come
for
back.
having me. I love it. Thank you. I can't wait to read your book.
Yeah,
Thanks.
you can find Ione on Twitter at Ione Skye with the number 1, and on Instagram at Ione Skye Lee, and there's an E at the end of Skye, just in case you don't know that. Her website is ioneskypaintings.com, and look for Camping coming out October 14th on HBO. Thank you so much,
I can't
Ione.
wait. I'll be
and
watching.
Also buy Illeana's book, I Blame Dennis Hopper.
That's
it's
right.
out in paperback.
Out in
You can get
paperback.
the audiobook. buy it. You'll like it. Also, check out our Facebook page. And what was the other thing? Oh, the website is illeanaspodcast.com.
That's right. Thanks, everyone. Everyone's life is like a movie with a beginning, a middle, and an end. And this is the end of our little movie for today. It had Dennis Hopper in it again. Thanks.
Yay.
Thank God. Thanks, everyone. Have a
See you
great
next
day.
time.
Bye.
Thanks.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network. The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.